Here we go. Welcome, everybody, to another exciting night on lifestyle medicine and food as medicine, whole food, plant-based nutrition. And this is a
Open forum.
open forum. I think that was named by Scott, who he in collaboration with whoever came up with this based upon surveys about what people wanted. Sometimes they want us to talk, and other times they've had enough of us. They want to just ask questions. And that's what open forum is about. So this is a free for all, whatever you want to ask. We have, let's see, Scott, myself, we have Eric Colgrove, we have Alice Blake, and I'm just looking around to see if we have any other doctors and providers on the session here. So there's four of us that can kind of potentially field some questions, and glad to have you all here.
Just a heads up, next week is part 1 of 2 on diabetes. I'll do the first part and then Charlie will do the second part the week after. Is there anyone in the class that's going to the grocery store shopping tour with our dietitians tomorrow? Wondering if you guys got an information letter about that. Anyone that signed up for that?
Monica, you're going.
I accidentally clicked the button for the thumbs up instead of the, anyway. About back to the plant-based providers in this area, I thought at one time I heard that there were like 45 plant-based or lifestyle medicine certified.
That's our Eugene plant-based provider members, but there's only a handful of us that are board certified in lifestyle medicine. They're people that have interest. They follow mostly plant-based diet themselves. They recommend it to patients, but there's only just a handful of people, even in the state, that are board certified in lifestyle medicine and are listed on the search engines. Like I'm on the Plantrition providers list. I'm also on the American College of Lifestyle Medicine provider search list as being an lifestyle medicine provider. But there's not many of us around. But there's also for people that are having trouble finding a provider that is certified in lifestyle medicine or very knowledgeable in lifestyle medicine, there is also telehealth. Love.life telehealth does basically telehealth office visits, and they're all lifestyle medicine providers. So love.life telehealth is an option too for people.
Okay, thanks.
So no one in the class today is going to the grocery store tour tomorrow? I know it has 20 people because they filled up, and then there's more than 20 people that wanted to do it. So I think they're going to do another one in May.
Nice.
If anyone here is interested, yeah.
So anybody have any questions, any thoughts, having problems, doing well? Now's the time to kind of share what you'd like, and we'll go from there. So we'll start out with Joe.
Thank you. I just unmuted myself. What I was going to say regarding that grocery tour, I mean, it's not of interest to me, but my bet is that even though it's signed up in full, if somebody just showed up, I bet there's probably going to be a couple of people who won't show up. It's just whether they want to take a chance. But that's not my point.
Okay.
My point is, this is a very specific and self-indulgent question, if you'll bear with me, okay?
Sure.
And if you don't feel comfortable answering, that's fine too. But I'd be very grateful for your advice about something which I'll call it, I'll use the word addiction, but I'll use it playfully. I mean, obviously I'm in control of it, but it's something that I really like, and I know that it's not good for me. But the question is, relatively speaking, what do I have to be concerned about? So what it is it's a form of an ice cream pop. Okay, however, it's what I would regard as a pretty healthy ice cream pop, and it's something that I get at grocery outlet, and I haven't seen it at other places. The brand is called Creamily, and what they call this is a frozen yogurt dessert, and they call it a meal replacement, which is a bit amusing. I don't think of it in that category. But what I'd be grateful for your input is if I might read you the ingredients, and I would appreciate if you see any red flags.
I appreciate that was the first question I was going to ask you. Could you read the ingredients, please?
Yes, yes. So looking for any red flags. So the ingredient, by the way, one reason why, before we go to the ingredients, one reason why I do use this is the sugars in this are 0. There are no sugars, at least in the conventional form in this. Okay,
There's
so
no added sugars, no
no, it says,
added
no,
sugar.
excuse me, but here's what it says. Total sugars, 0 grams, including added sugars, 0 grams.
Okay, go ahead. What's the ingredients?
All right, so whole milk, cream, erythritol. Hang on, before you get too outraged. Erythritol, unsweetened chocolate, chocolate oil. My eyes aren't too great. I think it says it's milk protein concentrate, cocoa butter, tapioca fiber, egg yolks, cultured whey, and non-fat milk, natural flavor, sheep milk, gar gum, local bean gum, monk fruit, sunflower, I guess it's a sunflower emulsifier, and oh damn, trying to read this thing here. I should have had a magnifying glass.
It's getting to sound like a chemistry set.
Hang on,
ingredient. Go
please.
ahead.
This is the last ingredient. Stevia glycinate.
That's the sugar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they use
So
stevia to
that's it.
sweeten.
There are so many issues with that, starting with milk. What is milk? Does
I
it have
know.
sugar in it? Does milk have any sugar in it?
I don't know.
Well, you've heard of lactose before, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so when you say it doesn't have any sugar in it, you say the main ingredient is milk. You just wonder, who's putting the labels on those products and how do you get away with that? But aside from that, how much fiber is there in any of those issues that you, Brad?
Let me take a look and see if it says. Because I think it probably will, but maybe not. Yes. Dietary fiber, 3 grams, 11% in 1 bar.
Because I didn't hear, other than the muck fruit,
Monk fruit.
anything that might even have potentially fiber. It might have been supplemental fiber that they've added. It didn't sound like there was any natural fiber in that, which to me is somewhat problematic. And the amounts of fat, particularly saturated fat, are particularly,
Well,
that's troublesome.
Let me share that with you. We didn't touch on the fat. Yeah, so the saturated fat, well, it is high. It looks like 1 bar is 50%.
Yeah,
The total fat is 19%. The saturated fat is 50%. The cholesterol is 10%.
Yeah, so if you want to build up plaque in your arteries and you want to cause inflammation in your body, the one thing that you can ingest, no matter how much you like it, would be eat a lot of saturated fat, which that product is the poster child for in my thought process. Anybody else? Anything to add to that?
Come on,
Plus
let
the-
it on.
Like
Plus the
how-
problem with plus the problem with the
here.
dairy is the IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1. So it stimulates cancer growth. So animal protein is what you want to try to avoid. You want to get your protein from plants. So that ideally, so and it's a processed food. So it's kind of, we can look at it from the fact it's sourced from an animal product, and then also it's processed. So you'd be better off eating fruit. There are sometimes you can find desserts similar to that at least would be sweetened with like or would be based on soy, like soy yogurt would be a better choice. I mean, at least you're not getting the animal protein, but a lot of times they still have added processed things and added sugars and things too. So kind of on the even plane when it comes to some of that stuff with some of the plant-based desserts that you could buy. But at least the only thing you would have going for it is to use soy as your base rather than dairy or cow's milk. That's what I could say.
That's a good point. I kind of do a wink when I'm accepting any product with milk in it, because for a long while I did not do that. I've allowed myself to take some milk products, but only in ice cream. Since getting involved with you guys, which means recently, I have backed out of cheese altogether.
Wow,
Good for you.
I used to
good
be
work.
addicted to Parmesan cheese. I'd say I put Parmesan cheese on everything except granola in the morning. And I backed out of cheese. I didn't do cheese before years ago. And I had blood tests that showed my cholesterol dropped from what it had been. My blood pressure dropped. And so I said, okay, I'll let myself do cheese again. Just Parmesan, mind you. But anyway, you convinced me to not mess with cheese, so I backed out of that. So this is really the only dairy product that I would do.
Well, can I say so? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to, so do you eat one a week or four a day or something in between?
Oh, good question. I can they come in packages of 4, and it's I tell myself I'll have one a night, but a lot of times it's 2.
Oh, every day, 2 a day.
Most every day, that's correct.
Ah. Well, maybe once a week would be better, like a special treat.
So
Let me put this question, if
What-
I may. Let me flip it and say this. Can you recommend anything that I should be taking, whether it's a supplement or a food, that would be aggressive in breaking down animal fats?
I don't know of anything that will be that. I think the aggressive breaking down the animal fat is not let it pass your lips. From my point of view,
And eat lots of fiber because it'll help shuttle it out a bit.
And this product is
Cholesterol
going to be
anyway.
opposite of that. The product that you were
Eric, go
showing.
ahead.
Well, I was going to say the product that you were showing is going to do the opposite of that, breaking down animal fat. Is loaded with animal fat.
That's why
And-
I'm asking you the question, what could I take to break down animal fat?
Oh, well, yeah, no, you just don't eat it. But what this product is made for ice cream lovers who are lactose intolerant, because this is lactose free kind of thing that they add. Instead of lactose, they use stevia and monk fruit. These are the 2 sweeteners they use, and it's loaded with fat. And I can tell you, ice cream is probably the most unhealthy food that we could possibly think about eating. And so I recommend nice cream, doing actually delicious, tasty ice cream that you can make yourself. It's called nice cream. So there's many recipes. It's very simple to make. It's delicious. It's healthy.
Well,
Um,
thank you for that thought. That's not a route that would have occurred to me. And emotionally, I'm initially resistant to it because it sounds like it would be a lot of preparation and time consuming. But at the same time, I'm thinking about another friend who's health conscious, and maybe if we made some stuff together, this friend and I, and then we would each have some.
That sounds
What?
like a great idea. You can go
Yeah.
out together and buy some bananas, let them ripen up to where they get brown spots, take off the banana peel and freeze them. Put them in a bag and freeze the bananas. Then you can take those frozen bananas. Do you have a blender?
Yes.
You can take those frozen bananas. Do you like chocolate ice cream or vanilla or strawberry?
No, I like chocolate. Yes. Yes.
Okay, if you like chocolate ice cream, you take those bananas, you take maybe 2 bananas or 3 bananas, whatever you want to do. You put them in the blender with a little almond milk or with water or whatever. And then
Yeah.
you add a couple tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa. And you can blend that up and you will have ice cream. And if it's not sweet enough for you, you just add a date or two and it will become very sweet. And if you
Mm.
want to have strawberry ice cream, you may put strawberries in there or blueberry ice cream or whatever it might be. You will find that you'll get the satisfaction of that. Man, this is really sweet and I love it. And I don't know. There is a machine you can buy for $40. It's called a Yonana, and that's where you get that either nice cream or whatever. It does a similar kind of process. You take frozen fruit and you just run it right through the machine. If you don't want to spend the $40 and you've got your own blender, if it's a good one, you can blend that up. If it's not thick enough, you can add a few ice cubes to it. You
So
know,
the base ingredient that we're putting in there is what?
it's bananas and
Bananas, yes,
cocoa,
of course.
and that's it. Two
Bananas,
ingredient ice cream
bananas
and unsweetened cocoa.
yeah, powder. Mhm.
And
A
did you hear about
couple tablespoons.
and did you hear about how to freeze the bananas? He said to peel them first,
Oh,
and then put them in a
sure.
plastic bag, and then
Yes.
freeze them that way. And then then they're frozen. Then you throw them in the blender.
So you advocate putting frozen bananas in the blender rather than soft, fresh ones.
Yeah, if you do
Right, because then it wouldn't be
soft,
frozen.
fresh ones, you're gonna have mush, and it's gonna be like milky, no ice cream, nothing exciting about it.
Well, I assumed that if you made it that way, then you would freeze it afterwards. But the way
I've never done that because then you would get a hard ball of this stuff and it would be difficult to deal with. You'd have to melt it and it would be runny and it wouldn't be like ice cream. You
Okay,
have
so
to
what makes
freeze the
ice-
bananas first.
Okay, got it, I think. So what makes the ice cream is that you're dealing with the frozen product first.
Yeah, and
And-
you're dealing with a texture that's like ice cream. You're dealing with a sweetness that's like ice cream, and yet you're avoiding the fat, and you're getting some fat fiber from the banana, and you're getting antioxidants from the cocoa.
Okay.
So
Give it a try. Go ahead, Alice.
It sounds simple. It sounds
It's
simple.
simple. It's simple.
well, you know, pipe in Charlie and Scott, but you were asking about how to break down animal fat. If you eat a lot of veggies, then you coat your gut, all the little villi, the little hairs in your gut, you coat them with this biofilm, which then slows down the absorption of meat and sugar and things like that. So that I don't know, thoughts.
Scott?
Well, that's good to know because I feel like I do eat a lot of vegetables compared with most people I know.
Well, if you eat, lots of vegetables that contain a lot of fiber, at the same sitting that you're eating something that's sugary or something, it does slow down the absorption, like she's saying. So, it's
Right.
the same
yeah,
with, so it's going to absorb more slowly, but you
Yeah.
still don't want to eat the animal fat because of the animal protein and the animal fat, because it's still going to clog your arteries and increase risk for cancer and diabetes and lots of other health problems. So, you want to try to avoid the animal products every chance you get.
Yes. I think that is a good point that has to be consciously reaffirmed for my consciousness and many people's consciousness. I mean, we have to hear that message over and over again.
So Joe, since you have the product and you don't want to throw it in the trash and you don't want to give it away to someone because it's poison, and you say a little poison in your body, you've lived with it all these months and years, and maybe a little more won't kill you off quickly. What you could do is what I did with chocolate. In the old days, maybe 13 years ago, I used to watch TV and I had my mind on 1,001 topics. While I'm talking with my wife, I'd go grab a chocolate bar like a Snickers or, something. I was feeling a little hungry and I would just kind of chew away at it. And I didn't give it any thought whatsoever for any the sweets that I ate. And so when I got done with that chocolate bar, I looked at my hand and I said, wait a second. I want to eat some chocolate. What happened here? I was mindless when I was eating. I just did it because that's how I ate.
I relate to that, mate. I hear
Okay.
that.
And
Uh,
and I was doing the same with ice cream, a couple tablespoons every single night. I just had to have it before I went to sleep. And
well, I
then,
absolutely do not have regular ice cream. I do not.
okay, but your treat is very similar in a way. And so I said to myself, okay, what am I going to do for foods that I think I have to have? And for me, chocolate was one of those I really needed. And so instead of grabbing a whole bar, I grabbed a little square, like a little less than an inch. I got this square and I went into a room, turned off my phone, did not do anything except focus on that. My mouth is watering as I'm talking to you about this. Put it on my tongue, really savor what the taste was like. And at the end of a few minutes of sitting there enjoying the chocolate, when I got done and I left the room, I didn't need a whole bar of chocolate. Just like you could kind of reduce the amount of that sweet treat you have by cutting it into different squares and then pulling a square out and savoring that, and you'd be cutting down your saturated fat dramatically. You could do that over time. And eventually, I kind of said, most of the days, I don't really need that chocolate fix, but occasionally, I still grab a little piece of chocolate, but I'll sit in the room now and I'm not going to eat anything mindlessly that is not healthy for me. Just a thought.
Thank you. I am keenly aware of the trade-off between the self-indulgence of maybe even an over-the-top taste sensation that lasts a matter of minutes versus the long-term residual effects within the body. I'm trying, maybe not very successfully, but I'm trying to be mindful of that balance.
Well, you were successful with cheese, so congratulations, and just keep focusing on your successes.
Well, I'm cutting back dramatically on oil as well, particularly olive oil, because of what you said about that.
Well,
So
smart.
those things, yes, and the other frozen dessert that I get at times, and this is all at a grocery outlet, is so delicious, frozen coconut milk.
Yeah, coconut milk is filled with saturated fat also. And it's one of the unhealthiest foods on the planet. So be careful about that as you keep looking at labels and reading about it. And I know this is a journey for you that you're just starting. So no beating up on yourself and, you know, what
Well,
can
it
I
seems
tell
to
you?
me- It seems to me that there is something of a debate that goes on around and around about coconut, because some people say that coconut has some very good qualities, especially for brain and memory.
Yeah, some people say that. Which people are they? Are they the people who are looking at all the science articles like Gregor, or are they the people that like the taste of coconut and like the fat in their diet, like they like to eat their bacon? You have to decide who you trust in this world, and it has taken us a number of years of reinforcement, asking people to find something wrong with who we're using as our instructors and our mentors. Scott and I came to the same conclusion about 12 years ago, and we decided that the people we were choosing to follow were actually following the science. And these other articles we were reading on the internet, and it was making confusion for us and the public. We had to make a decision. Who are we going to trust? And it may take you some time to keep searching and thinking, and maybe some of the others in the class can have an opportunity now to chime in what they have decided.
I'm
There
very
have been
happy for that.
there have been a couple or several others who are attending the class tonight who potentially could chime in with their experience, because there have been some who've been doing this for a pretty long time. So with that said, do we have any volunteers who are willing to chime in here?
I'm ready to embrace you.
Very
Good.
good.
I'd like to say
Good thoughts.
something.
Okay, go ahead, Yolanda.
So Joe, it's kind of a testimonial. I went in for my annual last year and I ended up having high cholesterol, which floored me. And I realized, well, I've been eating a lot of eggs. I didn't eat a lot of meat, but I did eat meat and oil, whatever I wanted, but 2 to 3 eggs a day sometimes. So I said, okay, I'm just going to become a vegan. Without doing much research, I just cut out the eggs and the meat and the butter and the cheese, all that stuff. And I love coconut. So I found a lot of vegan recipes that had coconut oil in it. And my cholesterol 2 months, well, let's see, it would have been about 6 months later, was higher than it had been when I was on a regular standard American diet. So I did some research, found this group, and I Googled vegans with high cholesterol, and the first thing that popped up was coconut oil. I took that out of my diet, as well as almost all oils. I brushed the bottom of my pan so things don't stick. And my cholesterol went down to normal. So proof is in the pudding for me. It really made a big difference to cut out that coconut oil and coconut milk, both of which I love. I'm Puerto Rican. People from tropical islands just love coconut. We grew up on it.
And just to clarify, eating a little bit of coconut as a whole food isn't going to have as bad of an
Right.
effect on the body as eating coconut oil or coconut milk and things that are
Coconut milk,
processed.
right.
So, but yeah, even
So-
coconut is still high in saturated fat, but all the fiber, it's not quite
It's
as
gone.
bad, but it's not something
Right.
you want to eat a lot of either. So, yeah.
Right. Anyway, that's my story.
Thank you, Yolanda. Who
Welcome.
else in the room would care to share a story or a thought? I'm
Well-
just looking to see. Go ahead, Alice.
Well, occasionally I'll make Thai food and it'll call for coconut milk. And if you get a can of coconut milk, like regular coconut milk, and you open it up, there's like an inch of what looks like Crisco. It's like this hard, solid thing. And then there's like the liquid. So, you know, usually if I cook, I don't use too much of that Crisco part of it. Like just, I might take a little bit of it. I think that's the oil, but it's very hard. And yeah, it looks just like Crisco.
And that's what your arteries tend to look like, oh, as the years tick by, winding up with, you know, the heart attacks and strokes and other kinds of things. Okay, anybody else? We're just kind of searching around to see if anybody else wants to chime in. Okay, Kim, yeah, so fire away.
I just want to say that as Yolanda mentioned about the Crisco in the coconut, Oreos are vegan,
Yeah.
but that stuff in the middle is sugar and Crisco.
fat.
So if you visualize that, then how can you possibly eat an Oreo if you're going to be biting into Crisco and sugar? So I think that's a really good point that Yolanda makes about visualizing that as like horrible fat Crisco. So just a thought, visualize it.
Thank you, Kim. Susan.
Well, oh, I didn't realize I pressed that already. But anyway, yeah, ever since I was told from this group, I don't know, about a year ago, about all the saturated fat that coconut milk has, because I went to the doctor and my cholesterol was slightly elevated, and the doctor had suggested that I go on statin, and I was, no, I don't want to do that, but I didn't know why it was elevated. And then Dr. Ross pointed out that, yeah, it's probably from the coconut milk. We were making curries. So what I do instead now is I'll put more spices in it, like curry and West Indies rub, that has a lot of spices in it. I'll put that in, and then maybe some almond milk or soy milk instead, which isn't as rich, because yeah, all that fat, I really liked it in the coconut milk. I didn't realize it was saturated. So it's a little bit different, but I mean, I'm totally used to it now. And we put more vegetables in it now. And I really, really don't miss the coconut milk anymore. So that's something that I'm sure that everybody else wouldn't have too much trouble switching either.
Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, I assume everybody here is familiar with the alternative to statins, at least as I understand it, because when I was first diagnosed with high blood pressure, my doctor wanted me to go on statins, and I adamantly refused. And the alternative, as I understand it, what I've been doing for years is red yeast rice extract and enzyme CoQ10, or better, ubiquinol. That's what I take instead.
So
For cholesterol management.
So if you managed your cholesterol with your diet and exercise and lowering the stress in your life and sleeping adequately, if you lowered it that way, you might not have to take the red rice yeast with the CoQ10 and,
I'm sure I probably wouldn't. I'm sure I probably would not, but you are asking for a level of perfection from me, particularly when it comes to sleep discipline, and sugars and the like, that I'm not capable of.
Well, this is a choice, and I didn't think I was capable of this when I was 63 years of age. I'm 75, and I know I've been capable for 12 straight years now. And I've seen others who are capable, and I've seen people, one lady was 94 after her heart attack. She decided to do this completely because she didn't want to have another heart attack. And so the issues are when it comes to what choices you make. We all get the choice, and if it does appear like it's too hard for you to make the changes, you just won't do it. If it's not fun, if you don't enjoy the food, we get that. But I guess the message I would like you to have from us is we love what we're eating now. We didn't think we could do it any more than and you think you could do it. And yet we've settled into, it's like learning how to swing a tennis racket or play the piano. At first, it's so awkward. And you may decide at your age, I don't want to learn to play any instrument. It's too hard. And this may be a similar issue. But if it prevents you from suffering the last 10 years of your life with some chronic illness, it may be worth it to you, as it's worth it to me. That's why I do it. And I didn't do it for me initially. I did it for my wife's sake, and she's benefited, but so have I. I've gone on way too long. Let's go to the next people who have any questions.
I want to say one little comment.
Go ahead, Alice.
Is good for like a well, Idaho is very dry, like a skin lubricant, like after a bath, a moisturizer, skin moisturizer. The food grade coconut oil doesn't have any chemicals and stuff. It's a very nice skin moisturizer.
Agreed completely. Use it on the outside of your body, not the inside. Or at least don't eat it. It's not healthy, but outside it's great.
Just another anecdote. I believe the statin, pravastatin, is made from red rice yeast. I think that's essentially what it is.
That's my understanding, yes.
Yeah, right.
Okay, who else has a comment, suggestion, wants to chime in? It could be this topic or any topic that you like. Pam, just unmute yourself.
This is the first time I've come. Charlie, I used to come to your classes in Oak Ridge when you were first doing them.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's nice to hear you again, enjoying it. But I'm speaking to what you said about enjoying the food that we eat. I sit down many times and just say, oh, I love the way I eat. I love this food. And about frozen bananas and replacing the ice cream urge, I use them with frozen strawberries, half frozen bananas, a little vanilla with oat milk and soy milk or a mix or any kind of milk, plant milk. And I love it. It's better than any strawberry milkshake I've ever had back in the old days when I had dairy.
Pam, so glad to have you, and thank you for sharing that with the group.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Alice.
What are your thoughts on the sparkling waters? You know, LaCroix, bubblies, all those kind of things.
Scott, do you have any thoughts on that?
I guess if they don't have, it's just natural flavoring and there's no sugar added, that would be the ideal. But I'd have to look at the label. Do they use, are there any phosphates in it, or is it just carbonated water? So I know with soda, there's a lot, sometimes they have a lot of phosphates, and that actually leads to poorer bone health.
I don't know. It doesn't say on the label. It says like, you know, water, carbonation, and natural flavors. But I know that like, oh God, what is it called? Not Pellegrino, the other one, the French one, is very high in calcium. That natural, that's the French sparkling water. Well, hello.
Yeah.
Perrier.
Perrier, right. I know that's very high in calcium. But it's a really good question. I don't know. Like there's no listing, it doesn't have like doesn't have artificial sweeteners. It says natural flavors and other flavors, but I don't know.
So I'm thinking about what Gregor would have to say about those, because he doesn't talk a lot about those bubbly kind of things, but he does promote tea, herbal teas, green tea, matcha. And so if we all need to keep ourselves hydrated, and so if you want the extra antioxidants and the nutrients in a drink that you're drinking, he would say, why don't you drink tea?
Well, I just Googled on my phone. It says LaCroix has 5 milligrams of phosphoric acid compared to colas, which could have 400 milligrams.
Oh, wow. So a lot less, yeah.
A lot less.
So,
So it's probably okay. If you like the bubbly taste, you could do that. But if you want some extra antioxidants and stuff, tea is a bit healthier choice. That's, I think, what he'd say. I don't know.
the other
I-
thing it says is it does have ethyl butanoate, ethyl butyric ether, uses an artificial flavoring in alcoholic beverages, perfumes, and a plasticizer for cellulose. That doesn't sound good,
Doesn't sound good, does it?
but it tastes so good.
Again, crack your bottle, have a little taste in the room, enjoy it thoroughly, and then bring it out the next day, a little other taste instead of down in the whole bottle. Or, use it mindfully.
So it is, I consider it hydration. Okay, here's my thing is like, after work, I go to the gym and I get home, like I got home and I'm home in time for this. It's 8 o'clock my time. Sometimes when I'm on this meeting, I'm like surreptitiously eating because I come home from the gym and I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And sometimes if it's at night and I'm hungry, I will drink a LaCroix. It kind of fills me up. If I, before bed, I don't want to eat, that kind of thing. So it's kind of a meal replacement, not exactly, but that kind of thing.
I have one here that's from Trader Joe's. It's called seltzer water flavored with blood orange and orange juice.
Yeah.
And it only has organic blood orange juice, no extra sugar. So that might be an option, only 15 calories.
Yeah.
I thought it looked okay. So I use these sometimes for a treat and then maybe put some real orange juice or some real lemon, but it doesn't seem that bad.
Thanks, I'll take it.
Drink of choice is water, but if we just have that a little bit here and there, like we all do, coffee or tea or little seltzer water, whatever. It's not using it as a food. It's just a little treat supplement. It's not, you want to be drinking mostly water, obviously, for your hydration.
Well, I have to say, personally, I find water boring. That's my problem with it. I drink a VA type juice that I get at Winco that's low sodium. That would be my standard thing that I would use if I'm doing something aggressive like biking or hiking or whatever. But I have a question. If I wanted a simple flavoring, do you have an opinion about maca powder?
Is that matcha or maca?
No, not to be confused with matcha. No, this is maca. Maca is a kind of a food that comes from a root, but it's known for energizing and it's known for libido. Those two things.
I don't know about Mako. Do you, anybody else in the room heard about it? MACA or
Yes, that's
MACHA?
right. MACA. It's something I've used for years, although I generally wouldn't use it as a flavoring by itself.
All right, there's maca powder and maca root, huh?
The powder comes from the roots, yes.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that people don't know about it because, yeah, it's been I have a little every morning in my green tea, along with ginger. And then I have more if I'm gonna do a physical exercise.
You know, I've never heard Gregor talk about it either over the last 12 years I've been listening to him. So I don't know.
It's a native product from, I think it's Peru or one of those countries.
Dr. Google says hormone sensitive conditions such as breast cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, endometriosis, or uterine fibroids, maca can act like estrogen. If you have any of these situations, don't use it.
Huh.
Does it say anything positive about it, or what its purpose would be?
Menopausal symptoms, that it might help those.
Here it says maca might cause headaches, gastrointestinal issues, insomnia, or cause you to feel jittery. This is February 18th, 2024. That's, there are some potential negative effects. I'm looking for the positive.
Yeah,
It says, I just read that it can increase libido and fertility.
well, that was my, I won't deny that that was my initial interest in it, but like I say, I use it for energy. If I'm doing a physical activity that's somewhat demanding, maca helps keep me energized.
May improve mood
But the
and
reason why I
energy.
brought it up is it's a nice flavor. It's a naturally somewhat sweet flavor. It's a root.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. We'll try to do some more reading and keep our eyes open about the science connected with it. And that's why we all meet together here in this room to kind of discuss these issues. So it sounds like it's reasonably, you know, it may work for some people, maybe okay. One thing we don't want to do is get distracted too much by thinking that a particular one food or supplement is going to bring us our health, though. We're trying to promote that message that you don't want to lose the forest for the trees, so to speak. If you're eating mainly a whole food plant-based diet, which it looks like maca could be as a root, that is in the general scheme of what we're encouraging you to do as best you can.
Yeah.
So, you know, the presentation, I think it was from a couple of weeks ago that Scott did about, you know, the whole food, the whole root versus the oh God,
The processed, highly processed.
well, the processing, but you know, the whole, all of it versus the single component of it. And I forgot the word that you.
You're reductionist versus holistic.
Yeah, thank you. The reductionistic. So the maca supplement versus, yeah, get the whole root. Yeah, that the, you know, this supplement and that supplement, eat the whole thing. I you know, really thought about that. It was, yeah, it was good.
Great point. Who else? I thought there was a couple other hands that went up and we missed them. I think Pam was there again. But maybe not. And okay, Pam. And it says one other, and Valerie. So Valerie was first, and then Pam.
You're first. Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Valerie, go ahead.
I think my computer's kind of weak. Yeah, so I want to ask it, but I don't.
Okay.
So, I mean, personally, I if I try to restrict too much, it makes me want to binge eat.
Uh-huh.
So I'm changing so much by eating this way. And I'm hoping that just my changes will initiate weight loss. But there's always this sort of caveat: don't eat. I mean, even chia seeds. Don't eat seeds, and don't eat any avocado. And but anyway, my point is there anyone in here that has lost? I mean, I am over 60, but has found they've had some nice weight loss without being too extreme? Because I'm kind of more oriented toward like McDougall with starches, like focusing on getting full with rice and potatoes and beans, and then adding the fruits and vegetables. But I need satiation and what's that other word? Quantity, I guess. And also I need to chew. Like I really miss crackers and cookies for the chew or not the chew, but the hard biting thing.
Thanks
That's
for the
where,
question. Go ahead,
yeah,
Scott.
where I guess if you want the crunch, I guess where the raw vegetables come in. Like instead of chips, it's celery, for example, because it's crunchy and salty, that kind of a thing. But McDougall would say, as far as nuts and seeds and avocados, he says, eat little of any of those, because whether it's healthy fat or unhealthy fat, the fat we eat is the fat we wear. That's what Dr. McDougall says. So you're on the right track eating, starch based. So, eating the beans and the intact whole grains and potatoes and sweet potatoes, and then with the addition of fruits and vegetables, that's McDougall's stance. And so, he always talks about nuts. It's like, if you ever went to your grandparents' house for the holidays and they had the nuts in a bowl and the nuts were in their shell and there was a little nut cracker there, and you would crack a nut and eat a nut, and then by the time you got to the second or the third nut, your hand would slip off the nutcracker and you'd bloody your knuckles, and you'd put it away and maybe try a couple of nuts again next year. And that's kind of where he feels, that's what he thinks about nuts. Maybe kind of like Gregor, maybe a small handful a day would be okay with nuts and seeds. But and then avocados, just be really careful too, because it's the healthy fat, but it's still the fat we eat is the fat we wear as far as trying to lose weight. And then even on the maximum weight loss program for McDougall, he talks about still starch based, but going even a little bit heavier on the non-starchy vegetables and fruits, kind of more of a 50-50, whereas otherwise it's maybe 70-30 starch versus non-starchy. And but I hear what you're saying about if you get too strict, sometimes people, if it's too strict, then they kind of fall off the wagon, so to speak. So you just I think everyone's different. You just have to know yourself and try to have your health goals in mind and kind of do what you kind of short-term goals. Okay, this week I'm going to do this, and if after a week you're kind of not getting where you want to go, just figure out what more you could tweak, or give it more time and kind of figure out what you can tweak, moving in the direction towards a more whole food plant-based diet. And then also all the other things, increasing physical activity and sleep and stress reduction, social support, and all those other things as well. But yeah, it's definitely an individual case by case for every person as far as what's going to work for them. And just also thinking of it as a lifestyle rather than a diet. And the diet implies that there's going to be an end to it. And this is just a new way of life, and trying to have your environment a safe place, so where the healthier choices are the easier choices. And yeah, it's a lot to think about.
Yeah, thanks. I don't mind not eating nuts. And I don't need to eat avocado either, just like occasionally a little bit of some. But I don't want to get carried away with that part of it. I kind of thought recently, well, if I can just do it back to back, long term, that would be my goal for this year, and maybe if I wanted to tweak things later. But I'm just wondering if other people have experience with weight loss on it.
Does anybody want to
Also-
chime in with that, with Valerie's request?
Well, my wife lost 80 pounds. I lost 46 pounds. I know other people in the class have lost a lot of weight eating this way.
Well, I lost 60, 70 pounds, but I didn't start out being whole foods plant-based.
This is Nancy.
Yeah. So I read a book called Big Fat Lies, and in it he said you could be fit and fat. And I've been chubby to fat all my life, so I go, oh, I'm not going to worry about diet or what I eat. I'm just going to worry about getting fit. But mindset, when you think about getting fit, you start eating better. And so then I got divorced and moved out on my own. Found out that I didn't like dealing with the fat if I cooked chicken or ham or something like that. There was always this yucky fat that I had to throw away, and I just kind of yuck. So I became pretty much vegetarian, so I'd eat cheese and stuff. And I was working away from home quite a bit, and I would make me I had these plastic salad bowls. They're probably around 7 cups or so, and I fill it half full with greens. And I like to get the greens at Costco. What is it? This has kale and baby spinach and baby chard, and I'd use that and fill the bowl that half full with that. And then I'd always cook up some grains, various kinds of grains, whatever took my fancy. And I really, one of my favorite grains is just wheat berries. I really like those, but I like to switch around. And then I do some beans of some type. Again, whatever, chickpeas or black beans or white beans or whatever. And then put whatever was on sale at the store, whatever vegetable was on sale at the store. I'd get, various vegetables and put those in, and then a dressing. And I wasn't vegan at the time, but I whatever dressing caught my fancy, I guess. And then so I bring those, and then maybe make some what do you call it? Quick bread, zucchini bread or something or other, and have that. And that usually kept me going. And then for night, I didn't like going to a restaurant or anything. I didn't get off work till 9 o'clock. So I would make, soup or something or other that I could just stick in the microwave, some kind of casserole or something. And so it took me about 15 years to lose the 60 to 70 pounds.
Wow.
And then I listened to a lot of books on my Libby, when I go out and work in the garden now. And I was listening to Barbara Roll's book, Volumetrics, I think it's called, or something like that, the volumetric diet. And I go, oh, so that's what I was doing when I was eating all these salads and stuff. So anyway, that's what worked for me. And like I say, I didn't even become vegan until, oh gosh, the very end. But that was more for other health issues. But yeah, oh yeah, I used to put cheese in too. I used to do some cheese. And that's probably why I didn't lose weight quite so fast. But I wasn't really looking, back then I don't even know what I started out and when I ended and everything, because it's just like, okay, I'm just going to try to get fit and eat right. And that's, I'm not going on a diet per se. So anyway, that's what I did.
Thank you for sharing that, Nancy.
Cool, thank you.
So we're going to go to Pam next, and then Susan, then Marcia.
Just a question, if anyone has any kind of documentation on green stevia. I don't use the white, and any comments I've ever heard about it was regarding the white stuff. But this is green stevia is the ground up leaf of the stevia plant. It's ground up really fine, and that's all it is. And I had a stevia plant at one time, and yeah, the leaves themselves are very, very sweet. So if you just dry it and grind it up, and that's what I get. I don't see any problem with that, but I wondered if you've heard of any.
If you're grinding up the leaf, I don't particularly see a major problem with that. It may be so sweet that if you depend on that as your main source of sweetening, you may not like fruit quite as much. But if you're eating an adequate amount of fruit, at least somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 servings a day, then having stevia as a sweetener with the leaf like you're describing sounds pretty good to me. What do you think? Anyone else, like Scott?
Any studies done on it that you've heard of?
Not that,
we'd have to, I know there's some studies on artificial sweeteners that Dr. Greger's done comparing them, but not that in particular. I know he's compared stevia before, but I don't think what you
Yeah,
described, so.
That white stuff looks, scary.
yeah, I think you're on the right track to avoid that. And if you are just chopping up the leaf, I can't see that it would be much different than taking a date and chopping it up and making, having date sugar that way.
And it's
Or
not the
sweetener.
same, it's not the same as fruit sugar. Fruit is so wonderfully sweet. This is something that I might put a little bit in a bean stew or something, but not as a main source of sweetener, because as you said, fruit is my main sweetener, and I use dates too.
Then it sounds like you'd be fine. My thought, anyway.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next on the hit list here was, I think it was Susan.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say that about stevia. I had a book about recipes made from stevia, and yeah, they said that for the green stevia, which I bought some green, but that's what it is. What you do is grind up the leaves, but it says that you can just use. It's a lot less condensed. In other words, you use more of it. If you're using a recipe that calls for stevia, for instance, then you would add more of the green stuff. But anyway, aside from that, what I was going to say is, I think it was Pam, excuse me, who was saying that she really missed the crunchiness of like chips and nuts or something. Anyway, I just want to say that what I really like and really satisfies my need to crunch food is apples. I mean, you get some really good quality, some apples that are real crisp, and that, boy, oh boy, that really, I don't know if it's aggression that I have or something, but I'm kind of like, I really like they really chew hard on stuff like that. And apples really, you might, if you like apples, I would just amp up on more apples.
I think that's a great choice. And I also want to add, you mentioned the starches. You could eat garbanzo beans that are dehydrated in the oven, or lentils. They have a tremendous crunch on salads or just by themselves, and they would be a healthy crunch. But apples have a lower calorie density, so that would be probably my first preference also.
And when you get the real kind of tart ones that aren't too tart, like Granny Smith, it's like, whoa, you get good apples, and boy, oh boy, they're, like from Sundance or something, they're really tasty. And I think that you'd enjoy eating a lot of those, and that would fill you up and satisfy that need to crunch. By the way, I made some crispy garbanzo beans. I think it's your wife's recipe tonight. Okay, all right, bye.
Thanks for sharing that. I don't see any new faces here. I think everybody's been here before, but if someone's new and wants to chime in and tell us how you found out the classes and what you might like to gain, feel free. But we have 2 more people before you, and then you'll have an opportunity. So we have Marcia next, and then Kim. So go ahead and unmute, Marcia.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was.
There you go.
Addressing the one that was asking about weight loss. I've lost weight, finally got back on the right track, and I'm still losing weight, and I still want to lose more. So yeah, it does help being on here to lose it.
And you haven't been doing this 100% completely. You've been gradually trending more and more, I think, over time.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
And you've been
Yeah.
doing this for
And
what, close to 3 years? 2 to 3?
three, something like that, yeah. So I'm
Okay.
more doing more plant-based than I was at first. So gradually cutting out. Well, for the most part, I have cut out the other stuff. So
But you've done it on your own time and your
Yeah.
own way, right?
right.
No one
Right.
forced you.
Nope.
Okay. Just remember, Valerie, there are no policemen here in this room. No one's going to give you a ticket. You get to make your own choices. And if you could keep the mindset that the choices you're making are because you're trying to reach a goal. It's like you're going on a vacation. You decide where you're going to stay. You decide how long you're going to stay for. You decide what you're going to choose to eat. No one is in control of that, only you. And don't think of this, if you can, as being depriving yourself. Think of this as I'm going to be making choices that are going to bring me a goal that I want in my life. And I'm doing this joyfully. That's what I would encourage you to think about. And
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Valerie. It's a great question, and other people have had similar questions that we don't always talk about. It's important. Kim, go ahead.
So I just want to say to Valerie that I went to True North for the fasting at the fasting center. And after I finished the fast, I saw how much food they recommended people eat. And they send you home with 3 meals, and they're huge. And I realized that if I eat as much food, good, healthy, vegetable, plant-based food, then I would lose weight. And when I don't eat enough, I gain weight because I probably eat the wrong things too. But I think that was the biggest takeaway, is how much food we really do need. We need to eat a lot of food, a lot of, plant-based food. But I have a question, because I see that most of the people in these classes are women. And I believe there are only 6 men in tonight's class out of 28. And for one of your students, maybe Dr. Ross, you could have them do a thesis on why American men don't go for this kind of diet. Why is it the men that are so resistant? And the reason I'm asking is my daughter is she's an omnivore, but she leans toward vegetarian and vegan, but her boyfriend insists on meat almost every meal. And I try to persuade him by telling him to go watch the movies that we all have watched, and I send recipes, and he's fine eating it, but if he goes out or if he feeds himself, it's always meat. And I just want to change the mindset of men eating meat, having to eat meat. So what is your recommendation on that? Just look at this class. It's mostly women.
Yeah, I try to tell them that actually meat is what, it's like that's like the meat equals manly, right? It's just that's the marketing, and the men do the hunting and the women do the gathering. It's probably goes back culturally, it goes back lots of generations, and so it's kind of just ingrained. But at the same time, I've had so many over the last 12 years or 11 years I've been teaching this to patients. I've been surprised by the number of men that have actually done it, and they surprise me. I got, this guy will never do this, but I give everybody the same opportunity without judgment, and then they really surprise me. But But I think it's that, try to, tell them the facts when you can, little bits here and there, like, like the game changers, and then saying actually meat actually is more feminizing. If you're a man, actually eating more meat is more feminizing because of all the hormones and everything else, no fiber, all you can describe some of the science on that stuff. But and dairy too, because it's it's a pregnant cow and there's lots of estrogen and hormones. So if you actually want to have really good libido and strong erections and build and be lean and be more manly, you want to eat more plants and less animal products. So it's actually kind of the science really points to the opposite of what the culture is and what the myths are. So it's just maybe chipping away at that over time. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit easier for me as a medical professional, because even though, as you know from these classes, we don't learn anything about nutrition in our medical training, because I can say, talk about the hormones and all these different things coming from a medical provider, sometimes it sinks in a little bit better. But even though I had to learn all this stuff outside of my medical training, it can, sometimes being a medical provider has its advantages in that sense. So anyway, a tough one.
Yeah, I agree with Scott that in terms of the men that I've interacted with, I would say men and women fairly equally will transition their diets. But that hunter-gatherer, the men go out doing the hunting, is the cultural kind of thing, I suspect. And these classes, I'm not exactly sure why there aren't a lot more men in the class. There's a lot more women in medical school now. It used to be doctors were all men, and now I think 60% of the medical school classes are women. There's some change in the culture, whatever has led to that, I'm not exactly sure either. It's an interesting question. Anybody else want to chime in?
Can I say something?
Of course, Susan.
Thank you. It's unfortunate, but through the years, I've gone to a lot of yoga classes, and that's even more true with yoga. Is unfortunate because a lot of men could really benefit from that, and it's the women who just love it. And but it's equally good for men, and same is true with diet. But I do know a lot of men who have gone the whole plant food route, and I'm glad that there are the men that I know, a lot of them actually that are. So, I mean, maybe in this class, I don't know, maybe they're more shy when this kind of thing, this kind of a platform, but. So I didn't have my hand. Okay. Sorry.
Thanks, Susan. Anyone else?
There was in the chat there, it says Kim's daughter or partner might want, or Kim's daughter's partner might enjoy the young Black man that lived past his death prognosis and how the tumors removed. I know you show that. It's one of the classes. I know the video she's talking about.
Yeah, that's the video on the cancer session that we have, or one of the cancer sessions, where I was given 6 months to live. I don't know, 12 years ago, something like that. And yeah, that's a good video for sure. All right, Kim. You can unmute. Oh, you lowered your arm. And then Nancy.
Yeah, okay, so what I run into every so often is somebody who is either diabetic or knows somebody who's diabetic, and they have been told to cut out sugar and therefore eat a lot of fat and everything. And they've been doing that, and their blood sugar's down, and they've lost weight, and their numbers are looking better. And so I just it's hard for me to explain to them why they should go whole foods plant-based instead of cutting out sugar. So does anybody have a good
Yeah,
good
well, I'll
rebuttal
talk
to
about
that?
that. I'll talk
What?
about that next week. I'll talk about that
Oh.
next week in the diabetes class. But yeah, I mean, you're going to lose weight cutting out sugar because you're cutting out calories. So that's good, and cutting out sugar is good. But if you don't want to cut out whole plant food carbohydrates, because that's not sugar, that's carbohydrates a nutrient, and we know if foods are foods, and a carbohydrate is just it is a type of sugar, but it's the effect on the body from a whole plant carbohydrate versus a processed carbohydrate like white sugar, white flour has a completely different effect. But when somebody is cutting out all plant foods, they're cutting out they're cutting out sugar, but then they're also cutting out potatoes, sweet potatoes, beans, other whole grains, maybe even fruit. They're going to be, where are they going to be getting most of their calories from? Well, from fat and protein, which is animal products mainly. And so then, yeah, you're losing weight because you cut out a lot of calories, your blood sugars and your numbers look better because you're lowering the amount of carbohydrate in your diet and sugar as well. So your sugars will come down, but what they're not realizing is that their insulin resistance, which is the cause of their type 2 diabetes, if they have that, and even a lot of people with type 1 diabetes also have insulin resistance. And so then their insulin resistance is worse. And then if they do on occasion eat a bowl of fruit or eat a potato or something like that, their sugar will shoot through the roof. And then they blame the fruit or the potato when it's really not the fruit or the potato's fault. It's all the fat, animal fat and protein that they're eating. That's what's causing the insulin resistance. It's not the sugar that causes insulin resistance, it's the fat. And so if they just never eat any carbohydrate or sugar, they're going to keep their sugars stable and low, but then they're also going to be increasing their risk for heart disease and worsening their insulin resistance and cancer and all of that. So you're basically keeping yourself in sick, basically, because the goal is to be not insulin resistant and have high insulin sensitivity. So your insulin works really well and you don't have insulin resistance, because it's the insulin resistance we're realizing is doing most of the damage in the body. And so that we want to get rid of that insulin resistance. And I'll talk all about insulin resistance in detail next week. So I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, well, some of them say that's what their doctor, nutritionist, or whatever told them to do. So
yeah, which is terrible because they don't know anything about nutrition. If somebody's recommending a low carb diet for something like diabetes, that's very short sighted, because you're going to have some better control, but you're not thinking about all those other things. I mean, I would ask any medical provider that says, "Oh yeah, I tell my patients with diabetes to do keto or low carb." It's like, well, what's the number one cause of death and the number one thing we worry about in patients with type 2 diabetes? They'd say, well, heart disease. It's like, well, why are you telling them to eat cheese and butter and sausage and bacon and all that saturated animal fat and protein? That's actually going to clog up their arteries more. It's actually going to make them at higher risk for having a heart attack or stroke. So why would we do that? It's like, so we really want to teach them to eat, don't want to eat sugar and don't want to eat processed foods. We want to eat fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grains, things like that, moving in that direction. But there's a lot of, low carb diets, keto diets are very popular, and you see the numbers get better and you lose weight and stuff. So you kind of get lulled into thinking this is a good idea, but the longer term studies that we have just don't support it. I mean, I can speak from experience. I did a low carb diet like 15, 16 years ago for 3 years. And the studies we had back then were just short-term studies up to a year, and it showed improvement in the numbers, just like I talked about. But we didn't have the longer-term studies, the 5-year studies on increased risk of all-cause mortality, which means death from any cause, and increased risk of death from heart disease. And we have those studies now, 5-year data that shows increased risk of death from any cause and increased risk of death from a heart attack eating a low carb, animal-based low carb diet. So now we have the data. So anyone that's doing that, hasn't kept up with the data, I don't know. I feel bad for their patients.
So there are some food choices that are listed on some of the national organizations that are supposedly promoting heart health and diabetes health, that, you know, list chicken as being a healthy source, and, you know, promote some dairy and other kinds of things. And so it is kind of a continual ongoing battle, which is, you know, continued by the organizations that influence our food choices or give us our recommendations for various food choices, versus the industry influence, or, you know, the effect the industry influence has on altering what the science actually has to show. So there is still confusion that surrounds what your choice is, and we're trying to share with you the best science as we see it.
Heart healthy Cheerios.
Yeah. You got to be careful about anything on the front of the package. Most of it is unregulated, the words that you're reading. Who else has something they care to share? Susan, and let's see, there's two others also. I mean, or at least one, and then Dave and Cherie. Susan first. Maybe Susan.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, we were
All right.
muted. This
Okay.
is my partner.
I
Gary.
I just want to make sure I understand. Are we saying that if you eat carbohydrates, like a whole carbohydrate plant-based, as long as you're not eating fats, you know, that will not increase your blood glucose? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, so what we're saying is, if you're eating the natural carbohydrate in the natural food,
Mm-hmm.
you're not eating foods that are highly processed. So you can eat like oats or groats, and you're getting some carbohydrate or a lot of carbohydrate, but it's with its natural fiber. So it's fine. But when you take whole wheat and you strip out the fiber and other nutrients and you come up with wheat flour, that would not be a healthy carbohydrate choice.
Yeah.
I see.
So white sugar, white flour, those are not healthy choices.
So like whole wheat flour, although it's better than white flour, it's not necessarily a perfect food. It's not
exactly.
Like it could increase your glucose.
Correct. Yeah. The healthy food would be the wheat berry. It has, you know, it has its fiber that's coated over it, and it takes a long time to cook it up, and it has everything in in its normal package, healthy package.
And then the other part of your question is that, yes, so like, for example, when I have patients that are still eating a lot of saturated animal fat, you know, bacon, pork, chicken, cheese, sausage, they're eating all that stuff. Then when they have diabetes because they have really bad insulin resistance, and they eat a bowl of fruit, their sugar goes really high. But then when they get rid of all those animal fats and animal foods that I just mentioned, they get rid of those. Maybe 3 months later, 6 months later, they eat that same bowl of fruit and their sugar doesn't go too high anymore because they got rid of their insulin resistance. So their insulin sensitivity went up, their insulin resistance went down. And so they can tolerate, because the idea is to be carbohydrate tolerant. A normal person without insulin resistance, no pre-diabetes or diabetes, no insulin resistance, they can eat a whole bunch of carbohydrate, even some processed sugar, and still keep their blood sugar normal because their insulin works properly. They don't have insulin resistance. So it's really those animal products are what's causing the insulin resistance. But you know, you don't want to eat the processed flour and sugar and all that stuff either because it's not healthy. So yeah, I hope that answered your question there.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who's next? There was someone
I
else.
think David, I think it was Dave and Sherry.
Yeah, David Shuri.
Hello. I just wanted to mention that starting tomorrow, they're gonna have the Food Revolution Network Summit for like 10 days. 8? Okay, 8 days. And that's by John and Ocean Robbins. And if you haven't seen it, I saw it last year and it was really good. They try to sell you their empowerment package, but you don't have to buy anything to watch it live, or you can watch the replay for the rest of the day. And you can see it for free.
Thank you for bringing that up. I actually logged on today to sign up and I did buy the package. I do that every couple of years. It just is, they have a wealth of information, and thank you very much for bringing that up for the class.
Yeah,
And
sure about the package. I'm cheap. I just watched it.
Yeah.
I think you can sign up through.
I think
You can
it's
sign up.
really good and I appreciate what they do. So I want to support Food Revolution Network. That's why I buy the package.
I agree.
I think you can sign up through Forks Over Knives, right? Or I guess where other places I've signed up too, but I don't remember where, if it came from Forks Over Knives. I know PCRM was also promoting it. But
It's called, you can go to, I'm just going to where they say, you go to the summit.foodrevolution.org. Summit.foodrevolution.org. And you'll be able to sign up for it, and it is free.
Thank you.
So, well, someone's ahead of me. I don't know how to make that little hand go up.
Oh, okay.
Reactions on
There's
the bottom.
One
React-
person
Thank
ahead of you. Nancy was gonna talk.
Yeah,
and
okay,
then
so what I was gonna
Alice,
say.
you'll be next.
No, not a problem.
Okay, so what I was gonna say is I got one of these things to sign online, and there's 3 people in Congress who are introducing a bill to limit advertising of highly processed foods to kids. I know Cory Booker is one of them. So anyway, I think that's something we should keep an eye on and support. It's just the advertising, but it's still hopefully go a little ways towards getting kids off these ultra processed foods.
Very good point. Thanks for sharing that. And then Alice.
Well, so Scott, you were saying it's the processed or the meat and fat that were causing insulin resistance. I thought it was like processed fructose, so like sugar as the and fructose that were causing the fatty liver and the insulin resistance. I don't know. Maybe you can.
Well, that's
next
yeah,
week.
that's another contributor. So processed sugar and so fructose in processed food, not fructose from fruit.
Right.
So
Right.
fruit doesn't increase liver fat or insulin resistance, but processed sugar does, and fructose is especially bad. So it's definitely a contributor. But if you got rid of all meat and you still were drinking a lot of soda and drinking tons of juice, you might still have some trouble. You might still have difficulty reversing your insulin resistance. So it's definitely a contributor, but we know, because when we've done the studies on it, it's the ceramide production from the saturated animal fat that's the biggest culprit in blocking the insulin signaling. And then also animal protein is an individual risk factor, because animal protein is composed of mainly branched chain amino acids. And what the branched chain amino acids seem to do is allow the fat to more easily come inside the muscle cell, for example. So when we eat saturated fat, it gets in there, but when the branched chain amino acids, and of course, there's another example of holism versus reductionism. So it's not just the saturated fat, it's not just the branched chain amino acids, but when we eat something like bacon, what does it have? Well, it has saturated fat, but it also has branched chain amino acids because it's mostly animal protein. So it's the food that's causing the problem. So it's not one individual thing, it's all these things together. And so that's why there will be studies where they show when you decrease, I think it's something like even having animal or even having meat once or twice a week increases your risk of developing diabetes by 400%. And so, and then in the Adventist Health Study 1 and 2, they showed when they're all eating very similar, one's eating a little bit more meat versus no meat, vegan. Only the vegan group had the lowest risk of developing diabetes. The people that were even flexitarian, even eating meat once or twice a month, had much higher risk of diabetes than the vegan group. So and all the other rest of their health factors were very similar because of the Adventists. They aren't smoking, they're exercising, they're eating a mostly plant-based diet, but with varying amounts of animal products. And so really good study to kind of tease that out. There's something about eating animal products that increases your risk for diabetes. And now that's the holistic. And then we have the reductionist. Okay, we see what the mechanisms are for saturated fat, branched chain amino acids, all these things are contributing to the insulin resistance. But I agree with what you said. Fructose is another component. So fructose from a processed sugar is not something we want to consume either.
So just follow-up question, like maybe 10 years ago, Hammer Nutrition, they were all about branched chain amino acids in their sports shaky drinks. What was the rationale for that?
Probably some more bro science. I don't know. There's a lot of what are called bro science out there at gyms and things like that. So I just go with the real science that's been vetted and is consistent. But yeah, so it's there's branched chain amino acids in plant foods too. It's just they're much because we need all the different amino acids, and so they're just so much higher in animal foods. And we know branched chain amino acids they're more strong acids. So like methionine is one, and so there's basically they're sulfur based amino acids, and we know sulfuric acid is a very strong acid. So if you're eating a lot of animal protein, you're getting a lot of branched chain amino acids, you're getting a lot of sulfur based amino acids, very strong acid, and so more associated with more inflammation, things like that. So just another little component of that.
So I suspect, Alice, that you're gonna go to nutritionfacts.org, maybe listen to a few of the videos that Gregor has on diabetes, particularly what is the cause of diabetes is what I'd recommend. There's a good video. What's the cause of diabetes? And on his site, nutritionfacts.org, it really explains it pretty well, a quick video. And I think you'll have fun with the debate. And next week, we'll talk some more about it, perhaps, if you're able to make it. We are doing great. This has been a fun session. Everybody has chimed in, and wow, Scott, what a fun night, huh?
Yeah, it was. Very lively group. You guys were great.
Started out a little quiet, but it surely got the room heated up pretty good. Joe got us started here at this meeting. So anyway, I know you'd love to stay here half the night, but we've got about 10 minutes over, and we need to save something for next week too. And so thank you all for coming, unless you have something else, Scott, that you need to say.
Nope, just all next week will be all about diabetes and insulin resistance, and I hope you guys can tune in.
Great session, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it was great.